Imagine the distinct, rhythmic crunching of bicycle tires rolling over a path of white gravel. You can vividly smell the sharp, earthy scent of fresh-cut grass carried by the cooling late afternoon breeze. You close your eyes, and suddenly, you are not just remembering a random day from your past. You are physically rewinding time, stepping right back into the exact second that memory was born. When intermediate English speakers recount their day, they deliver what sounds like a sterile corporate itinerary. They say, "I went to the park. The weather was nice. I had a good time." It is factual, it is grammatically correct, but it is completely devoid of life. An elite C2 level communicator does not just report facts, they paint a masterpiece. They understand that storytelling is an act of transportation. They transform a mundane afternoon into a deeply immersive experience for their listener. Today, we are unlocking the foundation of sophisticated daily storytelling, the architecture of a vivid memory. At the absolute core of this transformation is the creation of a vivid memory. A vivid memory is not a blurry, distant recollection of events. It is a memory so intensely bright, colorful, and clear that it feels biologically alive. To construct this for your listener, a master storyteller relies entirely on sensory details. These are the highly specific sights, sounds, textures, temperatures, and scents that ground the audience in the physical reality of the moment. Without sensory details, a story floats in an abstract void. By meticulously selecting these precise details, you engage in cinematic framing. Think of cinematic framing as directing a movie inside the listener's mind. You are choosing exactly where to point the camera, whether you are zooming in on a single drop of rain on a coffee cup or panning out to capture a vast, golden sunset. When a moment is framed with such deliberate intention, it is no longer just a casual thought. It becomes etched in my mind. This implies that the memory has been permanently and beautifully carved into your consciousness, impervious to the passage of time. As a result, you do not just vaguely remember the past. You can recall with absolute clarity every nuanced shadow and sound of that exact second. Let us train your vocal authority and your descriptive precision right now. Listen carefully and repeat out loud after me with a calm, deeply evocative cadence. Repeat vivid memory, cinematic framing, cinematic framing. Now, shadow the full storytelling statement with me. By utilizing precise sensory details, we construct a vivid memory for the listener. Again, clear, articulate, and completely grounded. By utilizing precise sensory details, we construct a vivid memory for the listener. One more time, feeling the imagery behind the words. By utilizing precise sensory details, we construct a vivid memory for the listener. Outstanding. Now, let us examine the concepts of being etched in my mind and being able to recall with absolute clarity. Repeat after me, etched in my mind, etched in my mind. Recall with absolute clarity, recall with absolute clarity. Now, shadow this full, elegant sentence. The atmosphere of that evening remains permanently etched in my mind, allowing me to recall it with absolute clarity. Again, focus on a controlled, mature delivery. The atmosphere of that evening remains permanently etched in my mind, allowing me to recall it with absolute clarity. One more time. The atmosphere of that evening remains permanently etched in my mind, allowing me to recall it with absolute clarity. Brilliant work! To understand how sensory details and cinematic framing elevate a simple event, consider a basic weekend walk. If a colleague asks about your weekend, an intermediate speaker might reply, "Yesterday, I walked through the botanical garden. The weather was beautiful, and it made me feel very relaxed." This response ends the conversation because it gives the listener nothing to visualize or feel. Now, listen to how an elite storyteller recounts the exact same walk, using cinematic framing and sensory details. "Yesterday, I took a quiet walk through the botanical gardens just as the sun began to set. I stopped for a moment, and I can recall with absolute clarity how the heavy, golden light filtered through the canopy of the ancient oak trees, casting long, moving shadows across the stone pathway. The air was incredibly crisp, carrying the faint, sweet scent of rain from a morning shower, and the only sound was the distant, rhythmic crunching of dry leaves underfoot. It was just a fleeting moment of perfect stillness, but that exact image is now permanently etched in my mind." Notice the profound difference in the architecture of the narrative. The storyteller did not just state that they were relaxed, they forced you to step directly into the garden alongside them. They made you feel the crisp air, see the golden light, and hear the dry leaves. They bypassed the logical brain and spoke directly to the listener's sensory memory, turning a simple, 5-minute walk into a captivating piece of art. Now, let us practice shadowing this exact framework of sophisticated storytelling line by line. This extended exercise is designed to train your vocal pacing, refine your pronunciation, and solidify a mindset of profound observation. Relax your shoulders, take a slow, deep breath, and repeat out loud after me. True storytelling is never a mere recitation of facts. It is the elegant transmission of human experience. When I share a moment from my daily life, I refuse to deliver a flat, lifeless report. I choose to elevate my narrative by carefully selecting sensory details that instantly transport my listener into my world. Through intentional cinematic framing, I capture the light, the sound, and the atmosphere of a scene, transforming ordinary, fleeting days into vivid memories. I understand that the most powerful communicators do not demand attention, they gracefully captivate the imagination. Moving forward, I am committed to observing my surroundings deeply, speaking with evocative precision, and recalling the quiet beauty of my life with absolute clarity and unyielding eloquence. Exceptional practice. You are beginning to view your own life through the lens of a master storyteller. Keep your breathing calm, hold onto this vivid imagery, and let us transition directly into part 2, where we will learn how to build an entirely immersive world through crafting an atmospheric scene. Storytelling is not the mere act of listing sequential events on a timeline. Storytelling is the profound act of taking your listener by the hand, pulling them out of their current reality, and placing them directly into the very air you were breathing. When intermediate English speakers try to describe a specific location, they rely on flat, generic adjectives. They say, "The restaurant was cozy," "the weather was bad," or "the room was nice." These words are informative, but they are completely emotionally bankrupt. They do not invite the listener in, they keep the listener at a distance. An elite, emotionally intelligent communicator understands that human beings do not remember descriptions, they remember how a space made them feel. Today, we elevate your narrative architecture as we explore crafting an atmospheric scene. At the very foundation of this skill is the ability to set the scene. To set the scene means to intentionally build the physical and emotional environment before any action even takes place. You do not just drop your characters into an empty white room, you meticulously construct the ambience. Ambience is the character and atmosphere of a place, the specific lighting, the background noise, the temperature, and the mood. When you master the manipulation of ambience, your story becomes deeply atmospheric. An atmospheric narrative is one that creates a distinctive, highly evocative mood that the listener can almost physically step into. It becomes entirely immersive. An immersive experience surrounds the audience completely, making them forget that they are simply listening to a story. When this is done at the absolute highest level, the emotion in the room becomes palpable. Palpable means a feeling or atmosphere so intense, so heavy, and so real that it feels as though you could reach out and physically touch it. Let us train your vocal authority and your descriptive precision right now. Listen carefully and repeat out loud after me with a calm, deeply grounded cadence. Repeat atmospheric, atmospheric, palpable, palpable. Now, shadow the full storytelling statement with me. We must set the scene by carefully constructing a palpable ambience. Again, clear, articulate, and completely grounded. We must set the scene by carefully constructing a palpable ambience. One more time, feeling the physical weight behind the words. We must set the scene by carefully constructing a palpable ambience. Outstanding. Now, let us examine the concepts of being immersive and mastering the ambience. Repeat after me. Immersive, immersive, ambience, ambience. Now, shadow this full, elegant sentence. An immersive narrative allows the listener to feel the exact ambience of the memory. Again, focus on a controlled, mature delivery. An immersive narrative allows the listener to feel the exact ambience of the memory. One more time. An immersive narrative allows the listener to feel the exact ambience of the memory. Brilliant work! To understand how the mastery of ambience completely transforms a narrative, let us consider a real-life example, taking shelter from a storm. If asked about a recent trip to the mountains, an intermediate speaker might say, "It started raining very heavily, so I went inside a coffee shop. It was a nice place, and I drank some hot tea until the rain stopped." This is a report. It transfers basic data, but it transfers zero emotion. Now, listen to how a master storyteller recounts the exact same event, utilizing atmospheric language to create a deeply immersive and palpable scene. I was walking through the steep, winding streets of Sao Paulo when a sudden, torrential downpour began. To escape the weather, I ducked into a tiny, almost entirely empty wooden cafe tucked away on a corner. I wanted to just wait out the storm, but the moment I stepped inside, the ambience completely captivated me. I can still picture the heavy, silver fog rolling slowly over the pine forests outside, while the window panes inside were completely fogged over with condensation. The air carried this incredibly palpable chill, contrasting perfectly with the bitter, rich scent of freshly roasted coffee beans and damp earth. A muted jazz record was playing softly from an old speaker in the corner. I sat there holding a ceramic mug of hot tea, and for an hour, the entire world outside just ceased to exist. It was an incredibly atmospheric, perfect little sanctuary. Notice the sophisticated architecture of this description. The storyteller did not just say it rained. They described the heavy, silver fog and the condensation on the window panes. They engaged the olfactory senses with the scent of roasted coffee and damp earth. They engaged the auditory senses with the muted jazz record. By doing this, they did not just tell you about a cafe, they built the cafe inside your mind, allowing you to feel the palpable chill and the profound sense of peace. That is the power of setting an immersive scene. Now, let us practice shadowing this exact framework of atmospheric storytelling line by line. This extended exercise is designed to train your vocal pacing, refine your pronunciation, and solidify a mindset of deep, intentional observation. Relax your shoulders, take a slow, deep breath, and repeat out loud after me. True storytelling is the elegant orchestration of space, emotion, and sensory perception. When I recount a memory, I do not rush straight to the action. I understand the profound importance of taking a breath and carefully setting the scene for my audience. I deliberately choose my words to construct a rich, complex ambience, painting a picture so vivid that the emotional weight of the room becomes truly palpable. I refuse to use flat, generic adjectives that isolate my listener. Instead, I craft deeply atmospheric and immersive narratives that invite others to step directly into the exact moment I experienced. Moving forward, I am committed to noticing the subtle details of the spaces I inhabit. I will use the temperature of the air, the quality of the light, and the subtle background sounds to breathe absolute, cinematic life into every story I tell. Exceptional practice. You are mastering the art of building worlds with nothing but your voice. Keep your breathing calm, hold onto this rich, immersive imagery, and let us transition directly into part 3, where we will completely shift our perspective to discover the magic of the whimsical and the childlike wonder of the everyday. At what precise moment in our journey toward adulthood did we lose the profound ability to view the world through a lens of magic? When did we collectively decide to stop seeing our daily lives as an unfolding adventure and start viewing them purely as a sterile, exhausting checklist of logistical tasks? When intermediate English speakers experience a disruption in their schedule, a wrong turn, a delayed train, or an unexpected change of plans, they immediately default to the language of frustration. They say, "I got lost, and it was so annoying," or "my whole day was ruined because things didn't go as planned." This rigid, hyperlogical mindset completely strips the joy from human experience. An elite, C2 level storyteller operates on a completely different frequency. They do not fight against the unexpected, they embrace it. They know how to extract profound beauty from the chaotic, unscripted moments of life. Today, we are shifting your narrative paradigm as we explore the magic of the whimsical and the childlike wonder of the everyday. At the heart of this narrative style is the concept of being whimsical. Whimsical describes something that is playfully quaint, delightfully unusual, and not bound by the strict, serious rules of reality. It is the ability to see a quiet, hidden alleyway not as a geographical inconvenience, but as a secret passage. To view the world this way, you must cultivate childlike wonder. Note that this is entirely different from being childish. Childish means immature. Childlike wonder is a highly sophisticated, open-minded curiosity, the rare ability to be genuinely amazed by the simple poetry of existence. When you allow yourself to operate with childlike wonder, your actions become beautifully spontaneous. You stop overplanning every second and allow your intuition to guide you. It is in these spontaneous, unscripted moments that we discover env. Ironments possessing a deep, playful charm, a light-hearted, magnetic quality that brings a subtle smile to your face. Ultimately, when you narrate these moments, you elevate an ordinary mistake into an enchanting story. An enchanting narrative casts a spell over the listener, making them feel as though they have momentarily stepped into a modern-day fairy tale. Let us train your vocal authority and your descriptive precision right now. Listen carefully and repeat out loud after me with a calm, deeply evocative cadence. Repeat whimsical, whimsical, childlike wonder, childlike wonder. Now, shadow the full storytelling statement with me. We must reclaim our childlike wonder to appreciate the whimsical beauty of the everyday. Again, clear, articulate, and completely grounded. We must reclaim our childlike wonder to appreciate the whimsical beauty of the everyday. One more time, feeling the profound openness behind the words. We must reclaim our childlike wonder to appreciate the whimsical beauty of the everyday. Outstanding. Now, let us examine the concepts of being spontaneous and recognizing an enchanting atmosphere. Repeat after me, spontaneous, spontaneous, enchanting, enchanting. Now, shadow this full, elegant sentence. By embracing a spontaneous detour, we often discover the most enchanting hidden spaces. Again, focus on a controlled, mature delivery. By embracing a spontaneous detour, we often discover the most enchanting hidden spaces. One more time. By embracing a spontaneous detour, we often discover the most enchanting hidden spaces. Brilliant work! To deeply understand how this vocabulary transforms a narrative, let us compare two ways of telling a story about getting lost. An intermediate speaker might say, "Last weekend, I went to the old quarter of the city. My GPS stopped working, so I got completely lost. It was frustrating, but eventually I found a small bookstore and waited there." This is a flat, victim mentality narrative. It focuses entirely on the logistical failure. Now, listen to how a master storyteller recounts the exact same afternoon, using the language of childlike wonder to reframe the experience. Last weekend, I was navigating the historic quarter when my GPS suddenly lost its signal. Instead of fighting the frustration, I decided to be entirely spontaneous and just let the architecture guide me. I wandered down a narrow, winding cobblestone alleyway that seemed completely forgotten by time. At the very end of it, I stumbled upon this incredibly whimsical, second-hand bookstore. It possessed this undeniable playful charm. Books were stacked haphazardly in towering, chaotic piles. A massive ginger cat was sleeping in the window display, and dust motes were dancing in the warm afternoon light. Getting lost wasn't an inconvenience at all. It was a deeply enchanting detour that felt like stepping out of the modern world and straight into a forgotten novel. Notice the absolute mastery in this reframing. The storyteller did not complain about the broken technology. They surrendered to the moment. They used words like whimsical, playful charm, and enchanting to turn a logistical error into a magical discovery. They invited the listener to experience the joy of the unexpected, creating a narrative that is light, poetic, and utterly captivating. Now, let us practice shadowing this exact framework of sophisticated storytelling line by line. This extended exercise is designed to train your vocal pacing, refine your pronunciation, and solidify a mindset of profound narrative freedom. Relax your shoulders, take a slow, deep breath, and repeat out loud after me. True storytelling requires the immense courage to let go of the script and embrace the unpredictable. I absolutely refuse to view my life as a rigid itinerary where every deviation is treated as a failure. Instead, I choose to navigate the world with a profound sense of childlike wonder. When the unexpected occurs, I do not react with frustration. I lean into the spontaneous nature of the moment, trusting that the most beautiful experiences are rarely planned. I train my eyes to recognize the playful charm hidden in the mundane, and I use my language to capture the whimsical, enchanting poetry of everyday life. Moving forward, I am committed to relinquishing my need for absolute control. I will allow myself to get beautifully lost, and I will narrate my detours with a sense of magic, curiosity, and unyielding grace. Exceptional practice. You are learning to dismantle the rigid walls of mundane reality and invite true magic into your voice. Keep your breathing calm, hold onto this sense of joyful curiosity, and let us transition directly into part 4, where we will elevate this concept even further as we explore the mathematics of fate and the beauty of serendipity. The mathematical probability of you meeting one specific stranger at one exact intersection, at the precise second required to completely alter the trajectory of your entire life, is practically 1 in several billion. Statistically speaking, it should be an absolute impossibility. Yet, this profound intersection of time, space, and human connection occurs across the globe every single day. When intermediate English speakers experience a highly fortunate coincidence, they typically rely on basic, limiting vocabulary. They casually remark, "I was just really lucky. What a crazy coincidence," or "it was a good surprise." While these phrases convey basic information, they completely trivialize the profound nature of time and destiny. An elite C2 level storyteller does not merely report luck. They recognize the underlying poetry of the universe and articulate it with breathtaking, cinematic precision. Today, we elevate your narrative scope as we explore the mathematics of fate and the beauty of serendipity. At the absolute center of this narrative shift is the concept of serendipity. Serendipity is not just dumb, random luck. It is the occurrence and development of events by chance in a remarkably happy or beneficial way. It is the art of finding something incredibly valuable when you were not actively looking for it. Often, serendipity is born from a happy accident, a logistical mistake, a wrong turn, or an unplanned disruption that paradoxically results in a wonderfully positive outcome. When this phenomenon involves people, we call it a chance encounter. A chance encounter is an entirely unplanned, seemingly random meeting between two individuals that ultimately holds immense, unforeseen significance. To describe the nature of these events, an elite communicator uses the word fortuitous. Fortuitous describes something happening by a lucky, beautiful chance rather than by deliberate intention, carrying a highly formal and elegant tone. And when the timing of these events is so flawless that it defies logic, a master storyteller will describe it as an alignment of stars. A sophisticated metaphor denoting a rare, perfect synchronization of circumstances, as if the universe itself had meticulously orchestrated the moment. Let us train your vocal authority and your descriptive precision right now. Listen carefully and repeat out loud after me with a calm, deeply appreciative cadence. Repeat serendipity. Serendipity, fortuitous, fortuitous. Now, shadow the full storytelling statement with me. We must possess the narrative grace to recognize the profound beauty of serendipity in our daily lives. Again, clear, articulate, and completely grounded. We must possess the narrative grace to recognize the profound beauty of serendipity in our daily lives. One more time, feeling the profound awe behind the words. We must possess the narrative grace to recognize the profound beauty of serendipity in our daily lives. Outstanding. Now, let us examine the concepts of a chance encounter and an alignment of stars. Repeat after me: chance encounter, alignment of stars, alignment of stars. Now, shadow this full, elegant sentence. That fortuitous chance encounter felt like an absolute alignment of stars. Again, focus on a controlled, mature delivery. That fortuitous chance encounter felt like an absolute alignment of stars. One more time. That fortuitous chance encounter felt like an absolute alignment of stars. Brilliant work! To deeply understand how this elite vocabulary transforms a narrative, let us look at a real-life scenario: missing a train. If asked about their evening, an intermediate speaker might say, "Last night, I missed my train and had to wait for an hour. While waiting, I talked to a guy sitting next to me. We actually became good friends. It was a lucky coincidence." This is a flat, robotic report. It strips the magic entirely out of the experience. Now, listen to how a master storyteller recounts the exact same event, utilizing the language of serendipity to elevate the narrative into a profound human experience. Last autumn, I arrived at the station just seconds too late. I literally watched the taillights of the final train disappear into the heavy fog. Initially, I was deeply frustrated by the delay. I sat down on a cold, empty bench on the platform, preparing for a long, quiet wait. A few minutes later, a stranger sat on the opposite end of the bench. I happened to glance over and noticed he was reading a deeply worn, heavily annotated copy of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, a philosophical text that had profoundly shaped my own worldview. Without overthinking it, I made a spontaneous comment about a specific passage. That single, passing remark sparked a 3-hour conversation that completely shifted my perspective on a massive career decision I was struggling with at the time. It wasn't just a frustrating delay, it was a brilliantly happy accident. That missed train led to a chance encounter so perfectly timed and so deeply fortuitous, it felt like an absolute alignment of stars. It was pure serendipity. Notice the sophisticate architecture of this reframing. The storyteller does not present the missed train as a punishment, they reframe it as the necessary catalyst for magic. They use words like fortuitous, chance encounter, and serendipity to invite the listener into a world where delays are not disasters, but hidden opportunities. They elevate a mundane conversation at a train station into a cinematic, life-altering event. Now, let us practice shadowing this exact framework of sophisticated storytelling line by line. This extended exercise is designed to train your vocal pacing, refine your pronunciation, and solidify a mindset of profound trust in the timing of your life. Relax your shoulders, take a slow, deep breath, and repeat out loud after me. True storytelling requires the profound wisdom to recognize that not all delays are punishments, and not all disruptions are failures. When I narrate the timeline of my life, I refuse to view unexpected changes purely through the lens of frustration or inconvenience. I choose to embrace the beautiful, chaotic mathematics of fate. I train my mind to identify the happy accidents hidden within my daily routine. I understand that the most beautiful relationships and the most profound realizations often stem from a completely unscripted chance encounter. Moving forward, I am committed to relinquishing my desperate need for absolute control. I will trust the timing of the universe, and I will narrate the beautiful, fortuitous events of my life with a deep, unwavering appreciation for the magic of serendipity. Exceptional practice. You are learning to weave the unpredictable magic of fate directly into your spoken word. Keep your breathing calm, hold onto this sense of profound trust and wonder, and let us transition directly into Part 5, where we will completely strip away the noise and discover the elegant power of the understated. In a modern world where everyone is desperately screaming for attention, where every image is heavily filtered, and every emotion is aggressively exaggerated, the most powerful sound in the room is often a quiet, perfectly timed whisper. When intermediate English speakers want to emphasize something beautiful or impressive, they rely on loud, ostentatious vocabulary. They use heavily inflated words, saying, "The event was incredibly flashy," "Her outfit was absolutely mind-blowing," or "The room was overwhelmingly gorgeous." This is an attempt to create impact through sheer volume and exaggeration. But an elite, C2 level communicator understands a profound aesthetic and linguistic paradox. True power does not need to shout. Today, we are stripping away the unnecessary noise to explore the elegant power of the understated. At the very core of this narrative shift is the concept of being understated. Understated describes something that is presented or expressed in a highly subtle and effective way, completely avoiding the desperate need to be obvious, loud, or flashy. It is the mastery of restraint. When a person, a place, or a piece of art is understated, it possesses subtle elegance, a quiet, highly refined form of beauty that does not aggressively demand your attention, yet absolutely commands your respect the moment you notice it. To describe something with such restraint requires a nuanced vocabulary. Nuanced means possessing deep, subtle, and complex layers of meaning that require careful, intelligent observation to truly appreciate. A nuanced storyteller focuses on the quiet details that others miss. They describe subjects that exist without pretension. To be without pretension means to be entirely genuine and secure, completely free from the arrogant, insecure attempt to impress others or appear more important than one actually is. And when you capture these quiet, unpretentious details, your description speaks volumes. A brilliant idiom meaning that a tiny, silent action or a minimal detail conveys a massive, overwhelming amount of truth and emotion. Let us train your vocal authority and your descriptive precision right now. Listen carefully and repeat out loud after me with a calm, deeply grounded cadence. Repeat understated, understated, subtle elegance, subtle elegance. Now shadow the full storytelling statement with me. True sophistication is inherently understated and defined by a subtle elegance. Again, clear, articulate, and completely grounded. True sophistication is inherently understated and defined by a subtle elegance. One more time, feeling the quiet power behind the words. True sophistication is inherently understated and defined by a subtle elegance. Outstanding. Now let us examine the concepts of being without pretension and how a quiet detail speaks volumes. Repeat after me, without pretension, speaks volumes, speaks volumes. Now shadow this full, elegant sentence. A nuanced, quiet gesture made without pretension often speaks volumes about a person's true character. Again, focus on a control. D. Mature delivery. A nuanced, quiet gesture made without pretension often speaks volumes about a person's true character. One more time. A nuanced, quiet gesture made without pretension often speaks volumes about a person's true character. Brilliant work! To deeply understand how the mastery of understated language transforms your storytelling, let us examine how you might describe a person's presence at a high-stakes event. If asked about a colleague at a corporate gala, an intermediate speaker might say, "My friend Clara looked amazing. She wore a really expensive, bright red dress with huge diamonds. Everyone was staring at her because she was so loud and confident." This description is superficial. It focuses entirely on the flashy, material aspects of the evening. Now, listen to how a master storyteller describes the exact same person, utilizing the power of understated language to paint a portrait of absolute, unshakable power. Last winter, I attended a highly chaotic, incredibly opulent charity gala. The room was filled with people trying far too hard to be seen, wearing massive designer logos, talking over one another, and projecting a very desperate, loud energy. And then Clara arrived. She completely bypassed the noise. She was wearing a perfectly tailored, midnight blue silk dress that was entirely understated. There were no flashy labels, no heavy jewelry, just an undeniable, subtle elegance. Throughout the evening, while others aggressively debated to prove their intelligence, Clara simply listened. But when a highly arrogant director tried to publicly challenge her department's numbers, Clara didn't raise her voice. She simply held his gaze, offered a highly nuanced, calm smile, and systematically dismantled his argument in 3 quiet sentences. She operated entirely without pretension, yet her absolute refusal to participate in their chaotic theater spoke volumes. She didn't have to demand the room's respect. Her quietness simply commanded it. Notice the profound sophistication of this narrative architecture. The storyteller did not rely on words like amazing or shiny. They painted a contrast between the desperate, ostentatious noise of the room and the quiet, gravitational pull of Clara's subtle elegance. By using words like understated, nuanced, and speaks volumes, they elevated Clara from merely being a well-dressed woman to a symbol of absolute, terrifying competence and grace. That is the power of doing less. Now, let us practice shadowing this exact framework of sophisticated restraint line by line. This extended exercise is designed to train your vocal pacing, refine your pronunciation, and solidify a mindset of profound narrative elegance. Relax your shoulders, take a slow, deep breath, and repeat out loud after me. True storytelling does not require exaggeration, inflated vocabulary, or desperate volume. When I describe the beauty, power, or significance of a moment, I completely reject the need to be loud and ostentatious. I choose the elegant power of the understated. I train my eyes to recognize the subtle elegance in the people and the environments around me. I understand that the most profound truths are rarely shouted. They are found in the quiet, nuanced details that exist entirely without pretension. Moving forward, I am committed to practicing linguistic restraint. I will allow the empty spaces in my stories to breathe, trusting that a carefully chosen, quiet observation will always speak volumes, captivating my listener with absolute grace and unshakable authority. Exceptional practice. You are mastering the ultimate paradox of communication. The less you force the narrative, the more intensely it is felt. Keep your breathing calm, hold onto this quiet, sophisticated stillness, and let us transition directly into Part 6, where we will navigate the complex, multidimensional territory of human emotion as we explore embracing the bittersweet. Human beings are the only creatures on this planet neurologically capable of experiencing profound joy and devastating heartbreak in the exact same millisecond. We are wired to hold two completely contradictory emotions simultaneously: to smile through tears, to grieve a loss while celebrating a new beginning, and to feel the heavy weight of an ending at the precise moment we feel the lightness of freedom. When intermediate English speakers encounter this complex emotional crossroad, they lack the vocabulary to express the duality. They aggressively separate the feelings, saying, "I am really happy about the future, but I am also very sad about the past." This language is disjointed. It treats human emotion as a simple black and white equation. But an elite, C2 level storyteller knows that life rarely operates in absolutes. They do not force emotions into neat, separate boxes. Instead, they gracefully merge them. Today, we step into the most sophisticated territory of emotional narration as we explore the multidimensional depth of embracing the bittersweet. At the very center of this emotional landscape is the word bittersweet. Bittersweet is a highly nuanced adjective describing an experience that contains both a sense of deep, happy nostalgia and a sharp tinge of sadness. It is the realization that a beautiful era is ending, but the ending itself is necessary. When you sit in this space, you often experience a gentle melancholy. Unlike clinical depression or heavy grief, melancholy is a quiet, pensive, and often beautifully reflective sadness. It is a state of mind that allows you to appreciate what is gone. An elite communicator does not view this sadness as a negative flaw. They describe it as a beautiful ache, a poetic paradox illustrating the physical sensation in your chest when you love something so deeply that letting it go physically hurts, yet you would not trade the experience for anything. This ache occurs because we suddenly realize how fleeting life is. Fleeting means lasting for only a remarkably short time, vanishing quickly. And when a storyteller captures this exact collision of love, loss, and the passage of time, their narrative becomes incredibly poignant. Poignant describes a moment that evokes a keen, sharp, and deeply touching sense of sadness or regret, piercing directly into the listener's soul. Let us train your vocal authority and your emotional precision right now. Listen carefully and repeat out loud after me with a calm, deeply reflective cadence. Repeat bittersweet, bittersweet, melancholy, melancholy. Now, shadow the full storytelling statement with me. We must possess the emotional maturity to embrace the bittersweet melancholy of a beautiful ending. Again, clear, articulate, and completely grounded. We must possess the emotional maturity to embrace the bittersweet melancholy of a beautiful ending. One more time, feeling the profound depth behind the words. We must possess the emotional maturity to embrace the bittersweet melancholy of a beautiful ending. Outstanding. Now let us examine the concepts of a beautiful ache, being fleeting, and creating a poignant narrative. Repeat after me: beautiful ache, fleeting, fleeting, poignant, poignant. Now shadow this full, elegant sentence. There is a beautiful ache in recognizing how fleeting and poignant these moments truly are. Again, focus on a controlled, mature delivery. There is a beautiful ache in recognizing how fleeting and poignant these moments truly are. One more time. There is a beautiful ache in recognizing how fleeting and poignant these moments truly are. Brilliant work. To deeply understand how this elite vocabulary transforms a narrative from a simple update into a cinematic emotional experience, consider the act of moving out of a home. If asked about leaving their apartment to start a prestigious new job in a different country, an intermediate speaker might say, "Yesterday, I packed all my boxes. I am very excited to move to London for my new job, but I will miss this apartment because I lived here for 10 years. This conveys the facts, but it completely fails to capture the gravity of a decade of human existence. Now, listen to how a master storyteller recounts the exact same evening, utilizing the language of duality to create a profoundly poignant and bittersweet narrative. Yesterday evening, I taped the final moving box shut and stood completely alone in the center of my empty living room. For 10 years, this space had absorbed every phase of my 20s, the late-night studying, the devastating breakups, and the chaotic dinner parties with friends who have now scattered across the globe. As I looked at the faded, square marks on the wall where my photographs used to hang, a wave of profound, quiet melancholy washed over me. I am incredibly thrilled about the new executive role waiting for me in London. It is everything I have ever worked for. Yet, as I listened to the hollow echo of my footsteps on the bare hardwood floor, there was this undeniably beautiful ache in my chest. I realized just how incredibly fleeting that entire decade had been. Locking that front door for the absolute final time wasn't just a logistical step. It was an intensely poignant, bittersweet farewell to a version of myself that I will never be again. Notice the breathtaking emotional architecture of this narrative. The storyteller does not rush to the happy part to comfort the listener. They sit in the empty room. They point out the faded marks on the wall and the echo of their footsteps. By using words like melancholy, beautiful ache, and poignant, they validate the complex duality of the human experience. They elevate a mundane logistical task, moving boxes, into a cinematic, deeply moving tribute to the passage of time. Now, let us practice shadowing this exact framework of multidimensional storytelling line by line. This extended exercise is designed to train your vocal pacing, refine your pronunciation, and solidify a mindset of profound emotional courage. Relax your shoulders, take a slow, deep breath, and repeat out loud after me. True storytelling requires the profound emotional courage to hold two contradictory feelings at the exact same time. When I narrate the transitions of my life, I refuse to oversimplify my emotional reality. I do not force a smile to hide the sadness of a goodbye, nor do I let grief completely extinguish my joy for the future. I choose to embrace the bittersweet nature of existence. I allow myself to feel the quiet melancholy and the beautiful ache of letting go, deeply understanding that these feelings are the ultimate proof that an experience was truly meaningful. Moving forward, I am committed to honoring the fleeting moments of my life. I will narrate my endings and my beginnings with absolute honesty, capturing the poignant duality of the human heart with unyielding eloquence and grace. Exceptional practice. You are mastering the ability to navigate the most complex emotional territories with absolute linguistic sovereignty. Keep your breathing calm, hold onto this beautiful, reflective stillness, and let us transition directly into Part 7, where we will travel even further backward in time to unlock the language of memory in weaving the nostalgic. The word nostalgia is not originally English. It was forged from the fires of ancient Greek. It is a brilliant, devastating compound of two distinct concepts: nostos, which means the journey or the return home, and algos, which translates to profound suffering or pain. Nostalgia, therefore, in its purest etymological sense, is not merely a fond memory. It is the beautiful, quiet agony of craving a return to a home, a time, or a version of yourself that no longer exists. When intermediate English speakers talk about their past, they often use flat, transactional language. They simply state, "I miss the old days. Thinking about my youth makes me sad," or "I remember when life was easier." While these statements convey a basic preference for the past, they completely fail to capture the profound psychological weight of human memory. An elite, emotionally mature storyteller does not just list past events, they resurrect them. They know how to manipulate the listener's perception of time. Today, we step into the delicate architecture of memory as we explore weaving the nostalgic. At the very core of this narrative capability is the feeling of being nostalgic. To be nostalgic is to look backward through a highly romanticized, deeply emotional lens. It is triggered by a sudden yearning, a profound, almost physical ache or desire for something that is entirely out of reach. You are not just remembering a Tuesday from 10 years ago, you are yearning for a bygone era. A bygone era refers to a period of time that has completely concluded, existing now only in the collective memory. When you navigate these memories, you enter a sentimental state. Being sentimental means your decisions and thoughts are governed by deep feelings of tenderness and memory, rather than cold logic. And what you are actually interacting with in this state are the echoes of the past. This is a highly poetic metaphor used by master storytellers. An echo is a sound that reflects off a distant wall and returns to you, slightly altered and fading. The echoes of the past are the lingering emotional residues of history that occasionally bounce back into your present reality, demanding to be felt. Let us train your vocal authority and your emotional precision right now. Listen carefully and repeat out loud after me with a calm, deeply reflective cadence. Repeat nostalgic, nostalgic, yearning, yearning. Now, shadow the full storytelling statement with me. We must allow ourselves to feel a profound yearning when we become nostalgic. Again, clear, articulate, and completely grounded. We must allow ourselves to feel a profound yearning when we become nostalgic. One more time, feeling the philosophical weight behind the words. We must allow ourselves to feel a profound yearning when we become nostalgic. Outstanding. Now, let us examine the concepts of a bygone era, being sentimental, and hearing the echoes of the past. Repeat after me, bygone era, sentimental, sentimental, echoes of the past, echoes of the past. Now shadow this full, elegant sentence. In my most sentimental moments, I can still hear the echoes of a bygone era. Again, focus on a controlled, mature delivery. In my most sentimental moments, I can still hear the echoes of a bygone era. One more time. In my most sentimental moments, I can still hear the echoes of a bygone era. Brilliant work! To deeply understand how this elite vocabulary transforms a simple memory into a cinematic, emotional masterpiece, consider a highly relatable scenario, hearing an old song. If asked about a long drive home, an intermediate speaker might say, "I was driving last night and heard a song F. Rom 10 years ago. It made me feel sentimental. I really miss college." This is a rigid reporting style. It tells the listener what happened, but it evokes absolutely zero emotion. Now, listen to how a master storyteller recounts the exact same drive. utilizing the language of time and longing to weave a deeply nostalgic tapestry. I was driving home on the interstate around midnight last night. The road was completely empty, and the only illumination was the soft, amber glow of my dashboard. I had the radio playing softly in the background when, suddenly, the station played a specific acoustic track from the summer of my sophomore year in college. Instantly, I was hit by this overwhelming, almost paralyzing wave of being nostalgic. I wasn't just remembering that time, I was physically transported back to it. For about 4 minutes, I felt this intense, beautiful yearning for a completely bygone era. A time when my biggest worry was a philosophy exam and my friends, and I had the entire world laid out in front of us. I pulled the car into my driveway, turned off the engine, and just sat there in the dark for a moment, letting myself be entirely sentimental, quietly listening to those fading echoes of the past before returning to the present. Notice the sophisticated architecture of this reframing. The storyteller does not just say they missed college. They set a highly atmospheric scene: the empty highway, the amber dashboard lights, the midnight silence. They use words like yearning, bygone era, and echoes of the past to elevate a common occurrence into a profound meditation on the passage of time. They invite the listener to remember their own youth, creating a shared, unspoken emotional bond. Now, let us practice shadowing this exact framework of nostalgic storytelling line by line. This extended exercise is designed to train your vocal pacing, refine your pronunciation, and solidify a mindset of profound respect for the history of your own life. Relax your shoulders, take a slow, deep breath, and repeat out loud after me. True storytelling requires the psychological depth to honor the history that shaped us. When I reflect on the chapters of my life that have closed, I do not speak of them with cold, detached indifference. I embrace the beautiful pain of memory. I allow myself to feel a profound yearning for the bygone eras of my youth. I understand that to be sentimental is not a weakness. It is proof that I have lived, loved, and experienced moments so deeply that their departure actually leaves a mark on my soul. Moving forward, I am committed to preserving the poetry of my past. I will narrate my memories with elegant reverence, allowing the echoes of the past to resonate through my voice, capturing the timeless and bittersweet beauty of being profoundly nostalgic. Exceptional practice. You are mastering the ability to manipulate the perception of time, pulling the past into the present with absolute linguistic grace. Keep your breathing calm, hold onto this quiet, reflective stillness, and let us transition directly into Part 8, where we will zoom in from the vastness of time to master the precise, surgical power of the evocative micro-moment. Close your eyes for just a fraction of a second. Can you perfectly recall the exact, sharp scent of damp earth rising from the pavement the very moment a summer thunderstorm breaks? Can you feel the specific, fragile, paper-thin texture of your grandmother's skin when she holds your hand? You do not need a 2-hour documentary or a 10-page essay to feel the weight of these experiences. You only need a single, sharply focused fraction of a second. When intermediate English speakers tell a story, they tend to adopt the perspective of a drone camera flying at 10,000 feet. They give broad, sweeping summaries of entire lifetimes, relationships, or vacations. They say, "We had a great childhood," "The trip to Europe was fun," or "She is a very hardworking woman." This macro-level storytelling is logistically efficient, but it is emotionally completely flat. An elite C2-level storyteller knows that human emotion does not live in the broad summaries. It lives in the microscopic details. Today, we are completely changing the focal length of your narrative lens as we explore the surgical precision of the evocative micro-moment. At the absolute center of this technique is the micro-moment. A micro-moment is an intensely brief, highly specific fraction of time, a single breath, a slight hesitation in someone's voice, the way a shadow falls across a table, or the briefest breaking of eye contact. To capture this requires the mastery of vivid imagery. Vivid imagery is not just using a lot of adjectives. It is the strategic use of highly detailed, sensory-rich language that paints a hyper-realistic picture in the listener's mind. When a storyteller successfully isolates a micro-moment using vivid imagery, the resulting narrative becomes profoundly evocative. Evocative describes a word, an image, or a detail that possesses the immediate power to pull strong, hidden emotions or deeply buried memories to the surface. Rather than just sharing dry information, an evocative detail will deeply resonate with the listener. To resonate is to create a sympathetic, lingering emotional vibration within someone else's chest. It strikes a chord so universally human and so deeply profound that it manages to truly stir the soul. Let us train your vocal authority and your descriptive precision right now. Listen carefully and repeat out loud after me with a calm, deeply focused cadence. Repeat micro-moment, micro-moment, vivid imagery, vivid imagery. Now, shadow the full storytelling statement with me. We must use vivid imagery to capture the emotional weight of a micro-moment. Again, clear, articulate, and completely grounded. We must use vivid imagery to capture the emotional weight of a micro-moment. One more time, feeling the sharp focus behind the words. We must use vivid imagery to capture the emotional weight of a micro-moment. Outstanding. Now, let us examine the concepts of being evocative, the ability to resonate, and the power to stir the soul. Repeat after me: evocative, evocative, resonate, resonate, stir the soul, stir the soul. Now, shadow this full, elegant sentence. A truly evocative detail will resonate deeply enough to stir the soul of the listener. Again, focus on a controlled, mature delivery. A truly evocative detail will resonate deeply enough to stir the soul of the listener. One more time. A truly evocative detail will resonate deeply enough to stir the soul of the listener. Brilliant work! To deeply understand how zooming into a micro-moment transforms a narrative from a boring summary into a cinematic masterpiece, let us consider how one might describe their love and respect for a grandparent. If asked about their family, an intermediate speaker might say, "My grandmother is an amazing person. She worked really hard her whole life to take care of our family. I always feel happy when I visit her and she makes tea for me." This is a macro summary. It is polite, but it is utterly forgettable because it lacks any visual or emotional anchor. Now, listen to how a master storyteller describes the exact same grandmother. Instead of summarizing her 70 years of life, the storyteller zooms their camera lens all the way in to a single, evocative 4-inch square of space. If I want to explain who my grandmother truly is, I don't think about her entire life story. I just think about a specific micro-moment from last Sunday afternoon. We were sitting in silence, and she was pouring jasmine tea into these tiny, chipped porcelain cups. I just sat there and watched her hands. Her skin is almost entirely translucent now, tracing this delicate map of blue veins and deep, permanent creases left behind by decades of grueling manual labor in the sun. There was a slight, uncontrollable tremor in her fingers as she struggled to hold the heavy ceramic teapot, yet her jaw was set tight, entirely refusing to let me help her. The fragrant, floral steam rose up, catching the amber afternoon light. In that one, incredibly evocative fraction of a second, just watching her weathered, shaking hands stubbornly pour that tea, you could see her entire history. You could see her fierce independence, her endless physical exhaustion, and her profound, quiet love for us. It was just a fleeting micro-moment, but the vivid imagery of those hands was enough to completely stir the soul. Notice the breathtaking difference in the narrative architecture. The storyteller did not use the words hardworking or kind. They did not tell you what to feel. They simply showed you the trembling, translucent hands, the chipped porcelain, and the rising steam. By isolating this evocative micro-moment, they created a visual that will resonate with anyone who has ever loved someone growing old. Now, let us practice shadowing this exact framework of microscopic storytelling line by line. This extended exercise is designed to train your vocal pacing, refine your pronunciation, and solidify a mindset of hyper-focused observation. Relax your shoulders, take a slow, deep breath, and repeat out loud after me. True storytelling does not require sweeping summaries or massive, dramatic events. When I want to convey the profound truth of a relationship or an experience, I do not rely on broad, lifeless generalizations. I choose to zoom in. I train my eyes to notice the brilliant, quiet micro-moments that everyone else overlooks. I use vivid imagery to paint exact, highly specific details: the texture of a hand, the shift in a voice, the exact angle of the light. I understand that the most evocative stories are built in the microscopic spaces. Moving forward, I am committed to observing the world with absolute, surgical precision. I will anchor my narratives in small, poignant truths, trusting that a single, perfectly described detail has the ultimate power to resonate deeply and stir the soul of anyone listening. Exceptional practice. You are mastering the cinematic lens of the spoken word, learning that true impact lives in the smallest of details. Keep your breathing calm, hold onto this sharp, visual clarity, and let us transition directly into Part 9, where we will learn how to extract profound meaning from the mundane as we explore the unexpected epiphany. It was exactly 8:14 on a Tuesday morning. I was standing in line at a crowded, aggressively loud coffee shop, staring blankly at the menu just like I had done for thousands of other entirely mundane, tasteless mornings. And then, without any warning, in the span of perhaps 3 seconds, my entire worldview completely fractured and realigned. When intermediate English speakers experience a sudden realization, they rely on very basic transactional language. They say, "I suddenly understood," "I got a good idea," or "I figured something out." This vocabulary reduces a profound human experience to the level of solving a simple math equation. It lacks any spiritual or psychological gravity. An elite C2 level storyteller knows that the most powerful narratives do not come from massive, dramatic life events like surviving a shipwreck or climbing a mountain. The most breathtaking stories occur when you extract immense, philosophical meaning from the quietest, most ordinary seconds of your day. Today, we elevate your narrative depth as we explore the architecture of the unexpected epiphany. At the absolute core of this storytelling technique is the epiphany. An epiphany is a sudden, striking, and incredibly powerful realization that fundamentally changes how you perceive yourself or the world around you. It is a flash of brilliant insight. When you narrate this experience, you do not just say you learned something. You describe it as a profound realization. The word profound indicates something situated at a great depth, possessing intense intellectual or emotional weight. To describe the physical sensation of this truth arriving in your mind, master storytellers use the elegant phrasal verb, dawn on me. Just as the sun slowly rises to illuminate a dark landscape, a truth dawns on you when it suddenly becomes entirely clear. This piercing clarity creates a moment of clarity, a brief, stunning period where all mental fog, anxiety, and confusion completely vanish, leaving only the absolute truth. And when this truth is powerful enough, it triggers a paradigm shift. A paradigm is your fundamental framework for understanding reality. A paradigm shift means the very foundation of your belief system has been permanently and radically altered. Let us train your vocal authority and your intellectual precision right now. Listen carefully and repeat out loud after me with a calm, deeply reflective cadence. Repeat epiphany, epiphany, profound realization, profound realization. Now, shadow the full storytelling statement with me. We must be open to the sudden epiphany that leads to a profound realization. Again, clear, articulate, and completely grounded. We must be open to the sudden epiphany that leads to a profound realization. One more time, feeling the philosophical depth behind the words. We must be open to the sudden epiphany that leads to a profound realization. Outstanding. Now, let us examine the concepts of a truth beginning to dawn on me, creating a moment of clarity and causing a paradigm shift. Repeat after me, dawn on me, moment of clarity, paradigm shift, paradigm shift. Now shadow this full, elegant sentence. In a stunning moment of clarity, a massive paradigm shift began to dawn on me. Again, focus on a controlled, mature delivery. In a stunning moment of clarity, a massive paradigm shift began to dawn on me. One more time. In a stunning moment of clarity, a massive paradigm shift began to dawn on me. Brilliant work! To deeply understand how this elite vocabulary transforms a narrative from a boring anecdote into a piece of profound philosophical storytelling, let us examine how one might describe a morning coffee run. If asked about their morning, an intermediate speaker might say, "I was waiting for my coffee, and I saw an old man looking very relaxed. It made me realize I spend too much time on my phone and I should relax more." This is a flat, moralistic summary. It tells the listener a lesson, but it does not make them feel the weight of the realization. Now, listen to how a master storyteller recounts the exact same morning, utilizing the language of philosophical insight to create a deeply resonant narrative. I was standing in the chaotic, deafening line of a downtown espresso bar. Everyone around me, including myself, was staring downward, completely absorbed by the cold blue light of our screens, trapped in our own digital urgency. Then, I happened to glance toward a small table in the corner. There was an elderly man sitting there, completely still. He wasn't looking at a phone, reading a newspaper, or even talking to anyone. He was just holding a ceramic cup, watching the morning light catch the rising steam, entirely at peace with the simple act of existing. In that exact fraction of a second, an intense epiphany washed over me. It suddenly dawned on me that I had spent the last 5 years of my life rushing aggressively from one task to another, constantly preparing for a future that hadn't even arrived, while completely ignoring the present tense. It wasn't just a passing thought, it was a devastating moment of clarity. Watching that man's profound stillness triggered an absolute paradigm shift in my brain. I realized that time is not something we can conquer by moving faster. It is a landscape we can only truly experience by finally learning how to stand still. Notice the sophisticated architecture of this narrative. The storyteller creates a sharp contrast between the chaotic, screen-obsessed environment and the quiet stillness of the man. They do not just say, "I learned a lesson." They use words like epiphany, dawn on me, and paradigm shift to elevate a common observation into a massive psychological breakthrough. They transform a $3 cup of coffee into a masterclass on human existence. Now, let us practice shadowing this exact framework of philosophical storytelling line by line. This extended exercise is designed to train your vocal pacing, refine your pronunciation, and solidify a mindset of profound daily observation. Relax your shoulders, take a slow, deep breath, and repeat out loud after me. True storytelling requires the profound wisdom to realize that the most massive shifts in our lives rarely announce themselves with thunder. They arrive quietly, hidden in the mundane details of our daily routines. I refuse to walk through my life completely blind to the philosophy unfolding around me. I train my mind to remain fiercely observant, always open to the sudden epiphany. I understand that a single, evocative image, a stranger's stillness, a shifting shadow, or a falling leaf, can trigger a moment of clarity that fundamentally alters my worldview. Moving forward, I am committed to extracting profound realizations from ordinary days. I will narrate the paradigm shifts of my mind with unyielding eloquence, transforming the simple, quiet observations of my life into narratives that challenge, inspire, and deeply stir the soul. Exceptional practice. You are mastering the ultimate intellectual framework of the spoken word, learning to find the universe hidden inside a single drop of water. Keep your breathing calm, hold onto this sharp, philosophical clarity, and let us transition directly into our final summit, Part 10, where we will weave all these elements together into the ultimate portrait of the master storyteller. Picture a grand, dimly lit dining room late into the evening. The air is thick with the chaotic noise of clinking crystal glasses, overlapping conversations, and bursts of loud, performative laughter. Everyone is desperately competing for attention, trying to speak louder than the person next to them. Then, someone at the far end of the table is asked a very simple question about their recent travels. They do not raise their voice. They do not wave their hands. They simply pause, lock eyes with the person asking, and begin to speak in a quiet, incredibly grounded rhythm. Within 15 seconds, the laughter dies down. Within 30 seconds, every other conversation in the room has completely stopped. The entire room is holding its breath, spellbound by a story about a simple cup of tea. When an intermediate English speaker talks, they merely transmit data. They tell you where they went, what they ate, and who they saw, leaving no lasting impression. But the person at the end of that table is not just a speaker. They are an architect of the human imagination. Today, we reach the final summit of our masterclass on sophisticated daily storytelling as we step into the ultimate identity, the master storyteller. At the absolute pinnacle of communication sits the master storyteller. A master storyteller does not just recite facts. They weave the seemingly random, mundane events of daily existence into a rich, breathtaking tapestry of life. A tapestry is a heavy, complex piece of textile art woven from thousands of individual threads. In storytelling, these threads are the bittersweet memories, the fortuitous encounters, and the evocative micro-moments. When woven together with absolute intention, they create a narrative that does not just entertain, but manages to completely captivate the audience. To captivate is to attract and hold someone's attention with a magnetic, irresistible charm. This level of magnetism is achieved through eloquence, the fluent, elegant, and powerfully persuasive use of language. But true eloquence is not just about the woe. RDS you speak. It is about the mastery of the empty space between them. A master storyteller wields the immense power of subtext. Subtext is the profound, unspoken emotion or meaning that exists beneath the literal dialogue. It is the realization that the most devastatingly beautiful part of a story is often what is deliberately left unsaid. Let us train your vocal authority and your linguistic elegance for this final peak. Listen carefully and repeat out loud after me with a calm, deeply authoritative cadence. Repeat master storyteller, tapestry of life, tapestry of life. Now, shadow the full storytelling statement with me. A master storyteller weaves ordinary days into a profound tapestry of life. Again, clear, articulate, and completely grounded. A master storyteller weaves ordinary days into a profound tapestry of life. One more time, feeling the artistic command behind the words. A master storyteller weaves ordinary days into a profound tapestry of life. Outstanding. Now, let us examine the concepts of being able to captivate, speaking with eloquence, and utilizing subtext. Repeat after me, captivate, eloquence, subtext. Now, shadow this full, elegant sentence. With unyielding eloquence and powerful subtext, she managed to completely captivate the room. Again, focus on a controlled, mature delivery. With unyielding eloquence and powerful subtext, she managed to completely captivate the room. One more time. With unyielding eloquence and powerful subtext, she managed to completely captivate the room. Brilliant work! To understand the ultimate synthesis of everything we have learned across these 10 parts, let us return to that dimly lit dinner party. A guest asks the storyteller a basic question. Why do you always choose to travel alone to the mountains? An intermediate speaker would say, because it's quiet, the weather is nice, and it helps me relax. Now listen to how the master storyteller answers, deploying sensory details, atmospheric framing, serendipity, the bittersweet, and the profound power of subtext. I don't travel to the mountains to escape the noise of the city. I go there to finally hear myself think. Last November, I was in a small, fog-drenched town high in the northern peaks. I had spent the entire day walking until my boots were soaked and the cold had settled deep into my bones. By nightfall, I found myself in a tiny, atmospheric tavern, lit entirely by the amber glow of a wood-burning fireplace. It was completely empty, save for an elderly local man sitting in the corner, nursing a glass of dark plum wine. For an hour, neither of us spoke a single word. There was just the hypnotic, rhythmic sound of the heavy rain lashing against the window panes. At one point, he caught my eye, raised his glass by a fraction of an inch in a quiet, understated gesture of acknowledgement, and offered a soft, deeply nuanced smile. It was a fleeting, serendipitous micro-moment, completely without pretension. Yet, in that exact second, an intense epiphany dawned on me. I realized that true human connection doesn't require endless, exhausting dialogue. Sometimes, it just requires two people willing to share the exact same silence. That bittersweet, poignant realization is permanently etched in my mind. It's a tiny thread, but it completely shifted how I view the tapestry of my own life. Notice the breathtaking architecture of this narrative. The storyteller pulls the room into the freezing fog and the warmth of the amber fire. They use the evocative micro-moment of the raised glass to convey massive emotional subtext. They do not just answer a question, they deliver a philosophical paradigm shift, completely captivating every single person in the room without ever raising their voice. Now, my brilliant, ambitious friends, let us practice shadowing our final, most comprehensive storytelling decree line by line. This extended exercise synthesizes everything you have mastered in this series, locking in your vocal authority, refining your cadence, and sealing your identity as an elite, C2 level narrator of the human experience. Relax your posture, ground your breath, and repeat out loud after me. To become a master storyteller, I must completely abandon the habit of reciting sterile, lifeless facts. I understand that my daily existence is not a boring itinerary. It is a profoundly rich, deeply complex tapestry of life, waiting to be woven into art. I choose to speak with intentional eloquence. I will set highly atmospheric scenes, construct vivid memories, and embrace the magical serendipity of the unexpected detour. I refuse to use loud, ostentatious language, opting instead for the subtle elegance of the understated and the immense, quiet power of subtext. When I look at my past, I will honor the bittersweet echoes of a bygone era. I will train my eyes to capture the evocative micro-moments of the present, allowing them to trigger profound epiphanies that stir the soul. Moving forward, I am dedicated to the absolute mastery of my voice. I will narrate the beautiful, chaotic poetry of my life with unyielding grace, knowing that the ultimate power of communication is not to demand attention, but to beautifully, effortlessly captivate the human heart. Congratulations! You have officially completed this 10-part masterclass on sophisticated daily storytelling. You have completely dismantled the flat, reporting style of intermediate English and replaced it with a cinematic, highly evocative narrative architecture. The world is a museum of extraordinary, quiet moments. Keep your eyes open, keep your voice steady, and continue painting your masterpieces.